Hello, good evening, and welcome to Eye on Port here on Metropolitan Television. Eye on Port is proudly brought to you by the Ghana Revenue Authority, Goil PLC, Serene Insurance, Ghana Link Network Services, and Meridian Port Services (MPS). The show is proudly powered by the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority (GPHA). Our media partner is the Business and Financial Times, the BNFT. Now, if you want to have a grasp of all that transpired in the show tonight, make a date and grab a Thursday edition of the BNFT, and you'll be able to see all that happened here tonight. We are streaming live on our social media pages. On Facebook, we are streaming live at Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. Still on Facebook, we are live at Port of Tema. And on YouTube, we are streaming live at Eye on Port. Indeed, we shall be getting interactive with you, and so all you have to do is send us your messages and comments via our dedicated WhatsApp line, which is 0559-019-177, 0559-019-177. At the appropriate time, when I pick signals from the production team that the time is ripe, we shall activate the phone line for you to call in and contribute to the discussion. My name is Kennedy Mona. We are going for a quick break. On return, we'll continue with the show. Please do stay with us.
Every now and again, Goil makes good things happen. This time, Goil has introduced Super XP Ron 95, a higher grade fuel loaded with additives and yet sold at the same price as normal fuel. Goil Super XP Ron 95 enhances engine performance like never before. It maintains the engine by keeping it clean from carbon deposits. Goil Super XP Ron 95 is designed to burn slowly and thus improves fuel economy, making you save money after several kilometers. Goil Super XP Ron 95 gives you a smooth driving experience, that is, less vibrations. Fill up with Goil Super XP Ron 95. Now there's no need to pay more for any higher grade fuel. Goil has that sorted. Goil, good energy.
Electricity, then pay your taxes. Our taxes, our future.
Because you see, without our taxes, we wouldn't have good roads, good schools, better hospitals, street lights, and other very important social amenities. When we pay our taxes, we give our children free and quality education. Talga, my money too small. Why should I pay my tax? Look, small. Salifo, it doesn't matter how small or big your business or income is. You still have to pay your taxes. The little taxes from each and every one of us, when put together, could give your community clean water. Or that deprived school with tables and chairs. Please pay your taxes. It is your responsibility. It is your civic duty. It is the law.
Impressive factory. If only I had listened to you, I wouldn't have been in this mess. That devastating fire virtually wiped out the whole factory and my warehouse.
Remember my misfortunes last year? Serene Insurance Asset All Risk Fire policy that I took were there to pay for my damaged stocks in the warehouse. And my machines that were affected by the floods have been replaced. My accident vehicle is back on the road thanks to Serene Insurance motor policy. Currently, my goods are on the high seas covered with their marine cargo insurance policy. I was just telling Ajima about Serene Insurance.
Oh, Ajima,
tell him more.
As a road contractor, I make sure I do my contractors all risk insurance for the projects and then workers' compensation for all the workers on site. With Serene Insurance, they will make sure they will cover your unknown tomorrow today.
Serene Insurance, a new face of insurance. Call us now.
MPS Terminal 3 is Africa's new state-of-the-art container terminal at Tema Port. For manufacturers, agro-processors and traders, the new port means business can be done faster. This infrastructure boost will improve Ghana's port handling capacity, connect more trading routes, and oil the engine of growth for the economy, creating greater opportunities across all sectors as Africa's markets merge and become the largest trading bloc globally. MPS, we connect, you thrive.
You're welcome back. It's now time for us to take a look at happenings in the port and shipping industry in the course of the week. And indeed, in the course of the week, Ghana's leading oil marketing company, Goil PLC, had occasion to present a check for 200,000 Ghana cedis to the Appiatse Support Committee Fund, plus the fact that the Harbour Master for the Port of Tema, Captain Francis Kwesi, has indicated GPHA's commitment to efficient marine services. Let's take a look at these stories and more.
The Harbour Master at the Port of Tema, Captain Francis Kwesi, has averred that the creation of the Harbourcraft jetty at the MPS Terminal 3 is owed to the ambition of the Port Authority and its key partners to improve efficiency at the port. Speaking to Ion Port less than a month after the operationalization of the Harbourcraft jetty at Terminal 3, the Harbour Master explained the processes that led to the creation of the jetty.
We had a joint stakeholder meeting at the premises of MPS, and the subject matter was to do with the idle time for vessels departure that makes reference to the last box being loaded or discharged until the last line gets cast off from the jetty. In other words, until the vessel is said to have departed. And the time reference here was a bit on the higher side, and that made the terminal not very competitive. So it was as a way of trying to put our act together to see how we could counter that particular challenge that was facing. When it comes to the provision of marine services, it is the sole responsibility of GPHA Marine Department for that matter. And as it were, we had to help with the ideas, formulation of ideas, and then practical steps to take to ameliorate the situation. So we decided then to work on the dual concept of departures or handling of vessels movement, both for the inbound traffic and then the outbound traffic. And that will have required the need to have more logistics.
He revealed that the authority plans on procuring 2 new tugboats and train additional pilots to augment the port's capacity in the handling of vessels.
So we decided after, the after end of the discussion to see how best we could put up an argument to management to help the facilitation of the construction of the purchase or the procurement for that of 2 new tugs, because we had 5 tugs and the activities then did not put us in good standing to be able to do the dual concept that we're talking about. So fortunately, the requirement to have 2 tugs was acceded to, and the processes went on end. At our end, we had anticipated that actually, and we had, for matters of the numbers for pilots, had decided to bring in 2 batches of pilot trainees, and they were being trained. So we were talking about the additional tugs, additional pilots, and then the mooring men, but importantly, the facility to contain them.
Captain Micah explained that the decision to provide a Harbourcraft jetty and an accompanying office space all tie into the authority's vision to leave no gaps in the port supply chain. The Harbour Master averred that these initiatives align with the authority's objective of making the Port of Tema the leading container hub and beacon of trade in the sub-region. The Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority remains committed to the holistic development of interns and young personnel attached to work at the authority for any given period of time, and tailors its supervision and tutelage to fulfill that objective. This year, the authority has facilitated a career and self-development forum for the young national service women of the 2022-2023 batch to prepare them for life after national service. Under the theme Contemporary Woman Managing Societal Pressures, the young women were counseled and educated on life skills necessary to come out successful amid today's dynamics in the life and career of women. The event forms part of the authority's itinerary for the celebration of the International Women's Month. Key speakers at the event emphasized on the need for mentorship for young aspiring women.
As a young woman, when you are rising, I believe that you need mentorship. Mentorship is very key. You need to be mentored. You need to be ready to learn and be coached. But one thing you should always have in mind is that as a woman going far, as a woman who wants to go far with a huge vision, you need to do the extra thing. You need to work extra.
I always say that we if our generation had gotten that much mentorship from the older generation, I'm sure most of us will be better than we are today. So I am excited to bring under my umbrella a lot of these young ladies. Some of them do not need anything. All they need is just direction. Just direct them. If it's blue, it's blue. If it's red, it's red.
The president of the Port Ladies Association and the corporate procurement manager, Philippa Amanda Ama, shared an advice to the youth.
In charting a career path or in the growing up process, there are things you will experience you've never experienced before, and those mistakes may occur, but it's important to forgive yourself, learn from the experience so that you can be better tomorrow.
The second speaker really touched my heart. I picked a keynote from what she said. She said, life is not a race. Life is not a race. So it means that whatever you do in this life, there's no need for you to rush. It's a step by step.
Ghana's leading oil marketing company, Goil PLC, has responded to calls by governments to public-spirited organizations and individuals to lend support to the Appiatse Support Fund. The company last week presented a check valued at 200,000 Ghana cedis to the fund. The amount is the company's token contribution to help alleviate the plight of the victims and the community in general. Kwame Osei-Prempeh is the group CEO and managing director of Goil PLC.
So it's in support of the work being done to alleviate the suffering of the people of Appiatse and to show people that everybody that Goil, we are always there to support every sector of Ghanaian economy wherever our support is needed.
Chairperson of the Appiatse Support Fund Committee, Dr. Joyce Ayi, who received the check on behalf of the committee, said 62 million Ghana cedis has been raised so far. According to Dr. Joyce Ayi, the high cost of goods on the market, coupled with inflation, has increased the cost of rebuilding the community by the contractors. She said the support comes in handy and it will allow for the timely payment of the contractors to allow for the speedy completion of the reconstruction of the community.
Things are going well, and we're praying that by September, October, quite a number of the buildings will be available for use, yes. But we're very grateful, very grateful to God, especially since their paying now is not a reflection of them not wanting to do so last year. They did write the check, but by sheer force of circumstances, the check got somewhere else. But it's good that it's coming now also, you know, which gives us a reason to ask other institutions that haven't done so already to do so, and even those who've done so but who can still do more to do so.
You're welcome back. Those were happenings in the port and shipping industry in the course of the week. It's now time for us to go on the international stage and find out what is happening there.
The European Parliament and Council have reached a deal on the increase of maritime transport's contribution to reaching the EU-wide target of achieving climate neutrality in 2050. On March 23, co-legislators agreed on Fuel EU Maritime, a new EU regulation ensuring that the greenhouse gas intensity of fuels used by the shipping sector will gradually decrease over time by 2% in 2025 to as much as 80% by 2050. The deal sets up a fuel standard for ships to steer the EU maritime sector towards the uptake of renewable and low-carbon fuels and decarbonization. Under the agreement, big ships will be required to gradually reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Assembly has begun on the first large cruise ship that is being built to be ready for methanol-fueled operations. With the placement of the keel block for Main Shift 7 into the dry dock at Meriaterkku in Finland, the cruise industry is among the shipping pioneers pursuing the emerging alternate fuel. The cruise ship is scheduled to be commissioned in 2024, with other firms including Norwegian Cruise Line, Disney Cruise, and Costa Cruises also moving forward with plans for future ships employing the new fuel.
All right. right, so those were happenings on the international scene in the port and shipping industry. It's now time for us to take the word of the day, and the word of the day for this week is deadweight tonnage. Deadweight tonnage.
Deadweight tonnage is a measure of how much mass a vessel can carry. It does not include the weight of the vessel itself. Deadweight tonnage is the sum of the weights of cargo, fuel, fresh water, ballast water, provisions, passengers, and crew.
All right, so welcome back. We are now zooming into our discussion proper tonight, and tonight we're asking a very simple question. Is it feasible for us to have a national shipping line like the Black Star Line in times past? Now, there have been calls recently for the establishment of a national, shipping line. The Transport Forum, which is a think tank in the transport sector, that's a maritime and transport sector, recent time conducted a recent extensive, research, and they believe that it is very viable for us to have a national shipping line in this country. Remember, we also picked snippets of information recently about McDonald business mogul Dr. Daniel Macaulay coming up with a national shipping line. So we are examining the feasibility of this particular, dream of bringing back the Black Star Line or bringing back a national shipping line in Ghana. Now, before we introduce my guest, I would like to read this particular portion, this particular document, which was put together by one gentleman who has written extensively about, Ghana's Black Star Line, and then what he thinks that we should be doing at this moment, and how, the Black Star Line put Ghana on the world map, globally. Let me introduce Mr. Ephraim Asari, who is the Vice President at the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, CILT, Ghana, in charge of maritime. He's the Vice President in charge of maritime. And also in the studios with us is Mr. Jacob Ajiman, who is the convener of the Transport Forum, Ghana. Yes, thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming. We are grateful to you for obliging us this evening, and thank you. Would want to tap into your expertise and then see what the feasibility of this particular dream is. Now, this particular document is put together by Joe Efa Enchi, MILT. He is in Tema, and the topic is, or the headline for this one is Founding of Black Star Line, Ghana. I just will, call portions of it and then read it. This particular paragraph says, Ghana was a country that could brag of not less than 4 top 16,000-ton vessels provided by the then government of PNP that embarked upon regular sailing schedules traversing the globe in the late 70s. Vessels like Kita, Tano, Sicily, and of course Volta arguably epitomizes the originality of Ghanaian identity once in foreign jurisdictions, as well as the soul of the nation in those highly nostalgic times. Very, 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 very profound by Joel Enchi. Well, I think that I'll leave it here, but he says we could boast of 4 16,000-ton vessels. That was in the 70s.
Yes.
All right. So let me begin with you. But before I allow you to give us a brief background of, the Black Star Line, which you have done a lot of research about, tell us about the Transport Forum and what you do.
Thank you very much. We thank our viewers for making time to listen to what we have to say about national development. The Transport Forum is a think tank, a group of young people who believes that we need to help shape the shipping, the transport and logistics sector in our country and probably beyond. So it's been, back and forth discussion between myself and my team. So somewhere last year, latter part of the year, we were able to launch the group. And our main objective basically is to help shape the transport logistics sector. We believe that shipping is the engine of growth. Transport is the engine of growth. For every economy to develop, you can't take out shipping, neither can you take out transport. So the right application of knowledge in the transport sector definitely will help boost the economy of the country. That's our passion, that's our desire. That's the Transport Forum.
Great. Okay, so I know, reading, materials online and all that, in the 60s and 70s, the Black Star Line was very, very vibrant, one of the most respected, shipping lines, globally.
Yes.
Tell us if you have any brief background about the Black Star Line.
Like the gentleman rightly put it,
yes.
I don't know whether I have to even go back again, but basically, we had a very vibrant shipping company as a state, not for individuals, as a state.
Yeah.
Way back in 1957, when we gained our independence, the then leadership thought it wise that it is better to have a national shipping line, a carrier that will fare our cargo from port to port and bring in goods, take goods out. So from 57, we set up the Black Star Line. But we need to get something clear. The Black Star Line is not the first of its kind.
Yeah.
Or let me put it this way. The name Black Star Line as a shipping company has first been used or been established by the civil rights
Marcus Garvey,
God.
Yes.
So, when you usually go on the internet to find information about the Black Star Lines, if you are not a bit specific, it will give you more information about what Marcus Garvey did.
Yes.
So Ghana, more or less, we decided to replicate what Marcus Garvey did to kind of bring a certain belief to the black community that we can do it and we will do it.
Yeah.
So 57, we set up the Black Star Line. Our first vessel sailed from Liverpool in the late, I think November thereabout, and then got to Ghana around December, around that same year. Bringing goods.
That was in 1957.
Yes.
When we attained independence.
We attained independence.
Okay.
That should speak to you the kind of vision at the time. Because if we could have a national line then, why not now? But we'll get to that. So that's just a brief history. He said nostalgic because you felt belonged. You see the national flag on our vessels and you know that this is Ghanaian. That kind of patriotism, that kind of love, that kind of commitment, that kind of hunger and desire that let me work for the country was huge because you saw things that could move you to a certain direction to die for the country. One of such was the Black Star Line. Yes.
All right, so Joel Efa and Chi's article titled The Founding of the Black Star Line actually also indicated in some portions that the Black Star Line collapsed as a result of corruption and mismanagement.
Yes. Yes, and he's entirely right. You see, when we manage things anyhow, and when you don't know the value of items or value of things, that is what happens. That's why somehow, some way, we believe that the blindness of the mind is more dangerous than the blindness of the eye.
The blindness of the mind is more dangerous than the blindness
of the eye. If I cannot see physically, but my mind can work, I may be physically blind, but psychologically, mentally, I may be very active. Some of us believe these are some of the things that led to the collapse of the Black Star Lines. And when you look at those issues carefully, even as today, it permeates through virtually all our state institutions. What are some of those things? Lackadaisical attitude, people not responding to duty as they are supposed to. I categorize the problems into two. One, it was about office inefficiencies and then operational inefficiencies. When I say office inefficiencies, what do I mean? How do you hire staffs beyond what you need?
Right.
So you get to a point that the Black Star Lines are people so much in the business or in the company that they were virtually doing nothing, but they were paid.
A drawing salary, yeah.
So you ask yourself, who pushed them there? Were they on seeing hands that were operating or managing or pulling people, that were pushing people into areas that they were not supposed to? Because see, the more people you have, it means your expenditure is high. So if your operational expenses is not able to meet up your expenditure, what happens? You make losses. So the revenue coming in is way less than the expenditure they were making. What will happen? They'll collapse. What again? When I say operational inefficiencies, talking about canvassing for cargo, what was the marketing thinking of the company at the time? Because you cannot operate in an island as a shipping company.
Yeah.
So today, most of these big companies, you realize they form some of liner conferences. They form some kind of consortium. So if my vessel gets to, let's say, Singapore, and a partner's cargo is available at Singapore, I don't need to get to, or my partner doesn't need to get to Singapore to take delivery of his cargo. My vessel can pick it, but there's that kind of consortium. Was it done? It wasn't done. So aside these issues of corruption, mismanagement, poor leadership, we believe that management style too was an issue. That if you really want to revive it, you need to discuss these things to details, and trust me, there are solutions and it's viable. We can do it. Yeah.
Mr. Asari, I'll find out from you. You are coming from the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, CILT Ghana. And I just want to find out from you, whether you think that it is prudent and viable for the nation to have a national shipping line, so to speak, to revive, as it were, the Black Star Line.
Yes. The question will be a very big yes. Now, any group of people, government, institution, that will attempt to discuss anything relating with shipping will be doing the right thing. I always feel a sickening nostalgia of the days where these 16,000 capacity vessels owned by Ghana berth at the port of Tema. You really see economic activity, the vibrancy of people moving towards a certain goal. And taking some journey back to history, when civilization thrived on shipping, how was America discovered if Columbus had not taken that trip?
That voyage.
Yes. How did we even develop our commerce and trade if the Portuguese did not venture into our coast on vessel? So the importance of merchant vessel management has started from Adam. And the question is, do we have what it takes? Yes, we have. The free sea coast is there. What is the business of a vessel? Carrying cargo. Do we have the cargo? Yes, we have. And so, do we have the human resources? Yes, we have. So what do we need again? I believe that the former Nautical College, which now metamorphosed to
Regional
Maritime University, was there to train and then build up the human capacity to man these vessels. That institution is still there right now, training all manner of people with skills. In fact, we have seasoned professionals who we are now using in other countries. What is more, we could leverage on the African Continental Free Trade Area, which Ghana is now using as a headquarters.
Yes.
So it means that business is going to flow in, investors are going to focus on Ghana, and partnership in areas of maritime development is open. So it is the willpower, the passion to pursue this agenda is what is lacking, and which we have control over, which we can manage to revive. So I see the resurrection of the Black Star Line to be real. What we have to do is to take a paradigm shift from those funny stories that we heard in the past. If vessels are costing $900,000, $44 million to $1.2 billion, if a huge capital investment of this nature can be undertaken and people, personnel deployed on a vessel can decide to joke, then I think that could be a criminal act. So I think that, yes, we can revive the Black Star Line, but we need a new crop of people whose thinking must be recalibrated. And then government policy tailored towards achieving this specific goal, which will need constant evaluation and target setting for those who will be tasked to execute this important task.
Right. Great, awesome. Let me come to Mr. Ajimain and find out from you. Mr. Asari's submission did indicate that, yes, we have what it takes to come back with a national, shipping line. He mentioned the fact that we have the coast is there. I mean, that's a natural God-given, resource. Sure. He says we have the cargo, we have everything that it takes. Do we really have what it takes?
As in human capacity?
Human capacity, yes.
Yes, I believe so. We do. Take a little moment back. Some years back, we didn't have probably enough or sufficient capacity. But as we speak today, the Maritime University produce students annually.
Absolutely.
In various fields of endeavor when it comes to shipping. Being it nautical, being it administration, being it commercial, whatever field. His group, SILT, they train people. They give academies. I'm not here to advertise for anybody, but I'm trying to let you know that in terms of human capacity, both academia and professionals, we do have it. What we need is the political will to allow academia and professionals to run a national shipping line. Now, in terms of cargo, let me give you some data I have here. And we can get it from the 2021 Maritime Review of the Ghana Shippers Authority.
Okay.
They says we have here a summary of Ghana's seaborne trade. Now we look at the total summary for both Takoradi and Tema. We have a total of about 25 in tonnage. 25,429,870 tons of cargo trading through our ports.
Right.
My question is, what portion of this tonnage belongs to Ghana?
Right.
All these tonnage we are talking about are carried by foreign vessels. So if you ask me, do we have what it takes? In terms of human capacity, we do. In terms of cargo volumes, we do.
Okay, so let me, in all of this, is it not prudent that we have the buy-in of the government?
We have the
buy-in.
Absolutely. I mean, these things are capital intensive. So obviously you need the government. Two, it is a policy direction or it is a policy making.
Right.
That is why I speak to politicians, speak to people running for power. For the Transport Forum, we want to hear, we want to see your policy document about the transport sector, about the shipping sector. I think we are tired of rhetorics. We want to see documents. If you want us to believe in your ideologies, in what you proclaim as a political party, and I'm speaking to politicians across board, give us clear direction as to how you intend to revive the Black Star Lines.
Right.
Bring in academia, bring in professionals, and then let them run it. Give them KPIs. Stay back as a politician, because it is these political hands that collapses our businesses. So if you don't run the Black Star Line as an enterprise, but we see it as a political cattle or cow that we're going to milk, it will fail, as it failed. So we need the politicians, yes, but we need them as policy makers, not as policy implementers. Now, in making the policy, you need to involve the right people to give you the direction. So what is your policy about the shipping sector? What is your policy about the transport sector? Zone down. How do you intend to revive the Black Star Line? We want to hear them so that we can also advise positively and make it work. God, it's a fact. We need a politician. You can't do without them.
Right.
But they need to know their limit so that the investment, like my senior colleague said, you can't go and buy a ship over $1 million. Then you come and waste it. No, it can't happen. That's our point about it.
All right. Let me come to Mr. Asari. We had visionary leaders of this country who came about with the Ghana Airways, for example, the Black Star Line we're talking about, and we managed somehow to run them aground. Now calls arrive for the resuscitation of some of these national assets, which really put Ghana on the map in times past. Now, going forward, if it is agreed that we bring back the national shipping line, the Black Star Line, what kind of business model do you think we should approach this with?
Good. So we can always learn from the success stories of other nations. If you take the Asian giants, Singapore, Malaysia, they have a targeted policy towards shipping. And they are excelling now, running shoulder to shoulder with the West in terms of their GDP and economic growth.
Yeah.
Singapore, it is the port that is making that nation. So we're saying that people get scared when they look at the huge investment in the maritime sector. The government should encourage private entrepreneurs who want to venture into that area. Many African nations might be scared because of the capital involvement that is determined. So I think that, yes, the model should be that we should engage foreign participation. PPP will not be a bad idea. We can take a cue from what happened at MPS in Tema, Bolloré Group, with GPHA having some shares, and now MPS is pushing. If you take the Takrady example, I think Appiatse managed some arrangement there, and now the Atlantic Terminal is about to take off fully, multi-purpose terminal. We are seeing a Ghanaian entrepreneur venturing into this area, which before was a preserve of the foreigners. The government must encourage individuals and groups like this. If that happens, reviving Black Salmon will not be a problem. We engage. People are interested in that industry. Apart from the gains of the employment issues, it solves a lot of social issues also. The extractive industry, manganese, bauxite, and whatever that is lurking around the Western Enclave is there. The Jubilee field is there. The oil and gas potentials all have to be developed. And then you look at other players in the value chain, the transport sector, the road network, warehouse, storage facilities. These are potential employment areas for our graduates who might not necessarily be looking at the civil service for employment. When you do that, development spread across the nation. So the cluster and the jumbo around Accra, Tema area will also ease.
Right.
And then the rail system also developed through Kumasi to the north. And then we are making use of the water lake transport. So I see Ghana is so blessed in terms of transport that we need deep thinking to execute these policies. So our parliamentarians, those who have oversight responsibility, please, we are appealing to them to sit up.
Right.
Take this Black Salmon Revival as a project. Involve other stakeholders. I have mentioned them. Transport operators have a role to play. Warehouse keepers have a role to play. Ministry of Roads and Highways, they should link the ports with good roads. That also minimizes the cost of doing business. The tree crop corporation that is going to develop mango and all tree crops, who is going to cater for this produce? A national line can be used to export them. And then we should also think of not only continental voyage. We are looking at the coast-to-coast West Africa, around the Cape Town area to the Strait of Gibraltar. We can run this Atlantic Ocean and make profit. Then maybe other vessels can use the Suez Canal and venture into the Far East while others go to the Panama area. So that a well-tailored plan is workable and is achievable. We only need the willpower and the passion that will drive this dream.
Right. Okay. Mr. Ajimai, I don't know, draw us a bit, backwards a bit, and I want to use Envy Adobia, if you heard about it.
Come again.
I want to give an example about Envy Adobia, Okay. This was a feeder vessel that was acquired by Stanley Aholu, who is also in the industry. He's a legal practitioner and he's an entrepreneur as well. And this was a feeder vessel that traversed the West African sub-region, picking cargo from one destination to the other and all that. But it was short-lived.
Yeah.
It didn't live long.
Yes.
I mean, he tried something on his own as a Ghanaian.
Yes.
Perhaps on a very small scale. And this didn't work. But we're looking at the broader picture, the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Establishing a national carrier in the shipping industry. How easy do you think this would be?
If I may add a little to what my senior said, probably disagree a little with him.
Right.
When it comes to the PPP agreement, yes. I think that's the way to go. My only challenge, or where I disagree with him, is where we may involve foreigners. I'm not against foreign investment,
right?
But I think for the purpose of national pride, we should be able to trust the Ghanaian to be able to do something. So there should be a PPP agreement, being Ghanaian. That's my
only
point.
Ghanaian.
Yes.
Only Ghanaian.
Government can own a portion, then other Ghanaian investors can own a portion. I don't subscribe to the idea of BOT, build, operate, and transfer, because in most of those agreements, it doesn't favor Ghanaians. So the Ghanaians that are supposed to acquire technical knowledge and skills will end up not getting it. And then the contract is over, then we need to extend it because they've not gotten the required expertise.
Yes.
So that is my little challenge. But I think the PPP should be the way to go. And the terms should be transparent. It should be more favorable to the Ghanaian. That's my point about that. Now, coming back to the issue of somebody tried to do it.
Exactly, yes.
When we were off camera, I was speaking to my senior. And then he told me jokingly that I can see you have a lot of interest in Ethiopia. That's what he told me. And I said, yes, I have a lot of interest in Ethiopia because I think it's a model for shipping company, national or state shipping company. When you got to Ethiopia in 1964, that's when they started their operation. As you speak today, they have well over 400 vessels.
Wow.
Ethiopia. Wow. You go online, you see it. They have over 300 cargo vessels. They have about 84 or more oil vessels. How did Ethiopia do it? Transparency, commitment, government support. So if you want to do it, it's not really about, the capital,
Yeah, it's capital intensive, yeah.
Yes, it is. Everybody agrees. But it is political commitment. By this statement, I don't intend to denigrate or to pull down any government policy. But if you implement policies that by itself do not generate revenue, its sustainability is a problem. So if you have policies that can generate revenue, it can help support certain social policies every government will choose to espouse, so that sustaining those social policies will be possible. I don't intend to mention names, but I think per knowledge, people know what I'm talking about. So we need the Black Star Lines because it is viable. It is viable because Cocoa Board, as we speak, on a yearly basis, spends about $300 million on transportation of cocoa beans from Ghana to other parts of the world. The question is, what are the vessels that transport the cocoa beans? Are they Ghanaian-owned vessels or they are foreign-owned vessels? The data I gave you tells you, if you go further, it tells you we had, only in 2021, we had about 1.4 million containers coming in and going out of Ghana, carried by foreign vessels. What is the share of Ghana? Our bauxite, our timber,
manganese.
Our manganese. Mention them. We are coming up with this sino-hydro project. Huge aluminium extracting industry. What are the vessels going to do the transportation? Yes, I believe it's capital intensive, but I believe this is a project that can also take care of itself. If efficiency in operation, efficiency in management is done. So the issue of it being capital intensive, for me, I don't think it should be a problem at all. That's my.
Now, Mr. Asari, you did indicate the fact that yes, we have trained a lot of professionals in the maritime industry who can take up the mantle when need be and when it is agreed that there should be a national shipping carrier once again. And you did mention also the fact that most of these professionals are in other nations, working for their governments and all that. Do you think that we are making the most out of our professionals who are trained in this country and elsewhere, in the maritime industry?
I don't think so. A lot needed to be tapped from them. This professional alone can market Ghana and then can earn a lot of foreign exchange for us. Question is, now that we have trained them and they are out there helping other nations, what do we gain? It's zero. And how do we get them? There must be an institution, a conscious effort to get them together and then give that assurance that they take care of them and then we take the best out of them. Look, we could get the vessel. I earlier on mentioned about coordination and engaging other principal actors in the logistics value chain. If you put a vessel there and assuming we have revived Black Star Line, they have all 4 or 5, whatever vessels, and then your vessel is at the port, and then you fold your arms, you sit in the vessel, and expect that cargo will flow, you stow on board and sail. You have missed it.
Right.
The cargo must come from a point. It must be in storage at a point. It must be conveyed to the vessel in a form of transportation, trucks. Who coordinates these activities to ensure timely execution of the task?
Right.
That has been lacking, and it led to the collapse of the Black Star Line.
Okay, that's one of the factors that culminated in the...
Yes.
Okay.
And it cut across most of state institutions. We can use the lessons of the Black Star Line to address a whole lot of lapses in other areas. So I'm saying that stakeholders should be involved. If you take cocoa, for instance, the projected tonnage for 2022-23, 750,000 metric tons. Cashew is also catching the market. As 137 metric tons was exported. We are talking about coconut, talking about Brazil nut, and then the tree crops. Ghana Rubber Estate Limited, they have their quota there. All these produce are going through foreign vessels. And so the monies that should have stabilized the city is not there. These things can reduce the continual tax that the normal people will always have to be taken care of. So the maritime industry is there. We can leverage on that with deep thinking and proper policy analysis to take care of a whole lot of things. We may not be increasing taxes all the time. We give less work to the finance minister. So I'm saying that our politicians, the technocrats, all the engineers and all those who matter must come together. This must be a clarion call.
Right.
We should take the rest of the year to seriously think about this particular subject. It solves a lot of our problems. We normally think the solution is so huge and you need all sort of scientists to do something. No.
But it's not rocket science.
At all. So that if Minister for Roads and Highways knows that he must link the ports with good roads, if warehouses will have to be constructed at strategic positions which may transfer to the ports and the corridor of transfer is neat, we will do a whole lot of things. We have the transit countries over there, Niger, Mali, and wherever.
Burkina Faso, yeah.
What Ghana has advantage of is its peaceful nature. The country is peaceful for business. The hula baloo and the disturbances in the neighboring countries has no place in Ghana. So it's a good business environment.
Right.
And now that the African Continental Trade, I keep on mentioning, is being headquartered in Ghana, we should take advantage of that. A lot of investors are flowing in, looking at areas where they can put in their money. So the whites will also run down here and invest. And then our money will stay.
Right.
So I'm of the view that, yes, the blast, it is viable, it's economically viable, politically viable, commercially viable.
Right.
We should think about it strongly. And the new blast line should engage professionals. Logistics and transport, the forum my brother is running.
Yes, the transport forum.
The transport forum. Institutions like GUTA, like the Awingo Beach Import Export Association. These are think tanks in disguise who knows the marketplace. And then we involve them and then we chart a common course. Then we can succeed.
Right.
If we behave like islands, no. Coordination is the key word.
Right. Great. Okay, so he made mention of the fact that lack of proper coordination of activities in the chain also culminated in the demise, so to speak, of the Black Star Line. Yes. Do you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, you speak to, some of us are young, so we did not experience the Black Star Lines as in person, but he did. I've spoken to quite a number of people who experienced the Black Star Lines. And then vessel berth at Takoradi or Tema, you have the master or the captain, the mate, virtually they are in town. And then the vessel is at the port. And the longer you stay at the port, you know, because something ship turnaround time, the longer you stay at the port, the more you pay. So every vessel, the moment they get to the port, the activities, they calculate it to ensure that they leave as early as possible. So if you have master, the mate, the other staff in town, chilling, having fun, the vessel is not working as it's supposed to, who supervises them?
Right.
In that chain, who supervises who to work? So absolutely I agree. Okay. And it was one of the reasons that caused the downfall of the Black Star Lines. He also made a point about stability of our currency. Yes. Let's just strike a simple calculation. 2021, number of TUs, that's containers, that came in was about 1.2, only for Tema Port.
1.2 million.
1.2 million containers. Let's assume it is 1 million containers. This is as an assumption, the lowest mark. You multiply 1 million containers by an average freight of, let's say, $1,500. Let's do that calculation. If half of that money, because we have other shipping lines, so we are not going to say that the Black Star Line is going to, you know, kill other shipping lines or take them out of business. No. The Black Star Line is going to take its due part. So let's assume that that amount, the Black Star Line is having, let's say, a half of that. That money stays in Ghana.
Right.
It has the ability to stabilize our currency.
Absolutely.
So for the finance minister, I think it should be a duty call on him that, look, let me see to the revival of the Black Star Line. It may not happen, or it may not give him that relief in his period, but in years to come, it will give the nation that relief. So that at least we can have a cushioned currency. I think that's something we need to work towards.
Absolutely. This is Iron Port here on Metropolitan Television, and tonight we are asking the simple question whether it is feasible for the country to revive the collapsed Black Star Line. That's a national shipping line. And with me in the studios, Mr. Jacob Ajiman, who is the convener of the Transport Forum, is a think tank in the shipping and transport industry. And indeed, Mr. Ephraim Masari, who is the Vice President of the Chartered Institute of Transport and Logistics, SILT, Ghana, in charge of maritime. We are going for a quick break. When we return, we'll continue the discussion. Please do stay with us.
Every now and again, Goil makes good things happen. This time, Goil has introduced Super XP Ron 95, a higher grade fuel loaded with additives and yet sold at the same price as normal fuel. Goil Super XP Ron 95 enhances engine performance like never before. It maintains the engine by keeping it clean from carbon deposits. Goil Super XP Ron 95 is designed to burn slowly and thus improves fuel economy, making you save money after several kilometers. Goil Super XP Ron 95 gives you a smooth driving experience, that is, less vibrations. Fill up with Goil Super XP Ron 95. Now there's no need to pay more for any higher grade fuel. Goil has that sorted. Goil, good energy.
Electricity, then pay your taxes. Our taxes, our future.
Because you see, without our taxes, who wouldn't have good roads, good schools, better hospitals, street lights, and other very important social amenities? When we pay our taxes, we give our children free and quality education. Talga, my money too small. Why should I pay my tax? Look, small. Salifo, it doesn't matter how small or big your business or income is. You still have to pay your taxes. The little taxes from each and every one of us, when put together, could give your community clean water or that deprived school with tables and chairs. Please pay your taxes. It is your responsibility. It is your civic duty. It is the law.
Impressive factory. If only I had listened to you, I wouldn't have been in this mess. That devastating fire virtually wiped out the whole factory and my warehouse.
Remember my misfortunes last year? Serene Insurance Asset All Risk Fire policy that I took were there to pay for my damaged stocks in the warehouse. And my machines that were affected by the flood have been replaced. My accident vehicle is back on the road thanks to Serene Insurance motor policy. Currently, my goods are on the high seas covered with their marine cargo insurance policy. I was just telling Ajima about Serene Insurance.
Oh, Ajima,
tell him more.
As a road contractor, I make sure I do my contractors all risk insurance for the projects and then workers' compensation for all the workers on site. With Serene Insurance, they will make sure they will cover your unknown tomorrow today.
Serene Insurance, a new face of insurance. Call us now.
MPS Terminal 3 is Africa's new state-of-the-art container terminal at Tema Port. For manufacturers, agro-processors and traders, the new port means business can be done faster. This infrastructure boost will improve Ghana's port handling capacity, connect more trading routes, and oil the engine of growth for the economy, creating greater opportunities across all sectors as Africa's markets merge and become the largest trading bloc globally. MPS, we connect, you thrive.
All right, so you're welcome back. I've been told by the production team that we can activate the phone lines, and the number to dial is 020 552-8353, 020 552-8353. You can call in and contribute to the discussion. And so far, some messages have come through. I'll just go straight into the inbox, the mailbox, and then let's have them. This one says, hello, I'm Port. I'm enjoying tonight's discussion. Kudos. Can our guests clarify if they want the same old Black Star Line to be revived, or just using the term Black Star Line to represent the national shipping line? This one is coming from Anthony. Anthony, we're just using the, Black Star Line, the name, to represent a national shipping line. We are not necessarily talking about reviving the old, collapsed Black Star Line. Yes, we may still want to perhaps hold onto the name Black Star Line, but perhaps under a different, arrangement. This one says, it's about time we stop the brainstorming. These things have been discussed at length. It's about time we take action. We should be operating our own lines by now as African countries. My name is Papa. He's sending this message from Hershey, Pennsylvania. Well, thank you very much, Papa, for sending this message all the way from Pennsylvania. This one says, good evening, I am Port. It's from Paulina Brakwa, who is with the Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders, my very good sister there. She says, good evening, I am Port. Insightful discussion. You have nailed it right, Mr. Ajiman. You have everything, human resources, cargo, knowledge, willingness to successfully run a Black Star Line, except the political will to make it work. And that's where we are now. God save us. Ohima from Tema. Thank you very much, Ohima, for your message. I understand we have Turo from, who's calling us from Sakumono. Good evening, sir.
Hello, good evening.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I want to contribute to the program.
Please go ahead, sir.
Yes, I've been someone who witnessed the collapse of the former Black Star Line. It's a program they are bringing in, is a very good program, but the point is, Ghanaians, we are not nationalistic. Unless they have to do away with corruption. And how do we do away with corruption? under invoicing, over invoicing, and the declaring of goods on freight on board. All those things collapsed Ghana Blaster Line. So I don't know how they were going to tackle. They didn't say anything about that. So I think they have to say something about that, how they will solve it.
All right. Thank you very much, Toro. We are deeply grateful to you for being our first caller tonight. You mentioned an invoicing, under declaration and all those things as part of the contributory factors that led to the collapse of the Black Star Line. We agree?
Yes, I do.
Perfect.
And I think to address that, those days are those days that we have limited access to information.
Right.
I think in this current dispensation, it's easy to ascertain information given by whoever. Yes. So if you declare that you bought this cargo at this particular price or this amount, your invoices from the retail shop or the wholesale shop must show, and then it can easily be cross-checked. The point is, how do customs even determine under invoicing? They have a strong database that they're able to determine. So, yes, I agree with him, but I don't really think it should be a problem now because we have easy means to ascertain genuineness of invoices and information. If it is wrong, we tell you it's wrong, and we apply the right, invoice.
Okay, let's go back onto the phone lines and welcome Eric. He's calling us all the way from Kumasi. Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Please shoot, sir.
It is understandable and all, like they want to reinstate the Black Star Lines, but what about the foreigners? Their vessels. What are they going to do? Will they stay still on what their milk spill? So when something like that happens, what will you also do? So that's my question.
All right. Thank you very much indeed, Eric. Mr. Asari, would you like to respond to his question? Yes.
Yes. We have fair trade agreement. WTO is a forum where all members negotiate fair trade agreements and rules. Black Star Line will be going to the open market to compete with others.
Yeah.
Yes. So here, competence is what comes to play. We are saying that even with our cocoa, sometimes the buyers determine which vessel should bring their cocoa. If you go by the Incoterms, cost, insurance, and freight, they have a say. Maybe based on some past experience, you are not able to deliver your cargo to them on time.
Yeah.
They have a right to choose which vessel they feel can deliver.
Because there's competition.
It's competition.
Yes.
And it is there in the WTO agreement. Fair competition.
Okay.
So it boils down to the fact that competent staff, well-oriented, patriotic, who will be selfless, who are the ones that qualify to man these areas.
Absolutely.
It's not a free lunch for anybody at all.
Awesome. All right, I'm told Freeman is calling us from Bolga, that's Upper East Regional Capital. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, I want to contribute to your program.
Please go ahead, sir.
I have a problem and a question about the accident cars. Nowadays, when you are importing an accident car for business in Ghana here, then you have a problem with the custom officers at the port. But I don't want to mention names. I know a particular custom officer who has this particular accident cars in his garage, repair them and sell. And yet, if a fellow Ghanaian brings them in to do business, pay tax in return, then they add you a particular amount of money that you yourself, you reject the cars and go away. Why? That's my question.
All right, Freeman, thank you very much indeed. I think this one falls squarely within the domain of the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority. Unfortunately, tonight we don't have any guests from the Customs Division, and so we'll try and then pass our question on to them, the AC in Tema, and then we can bring your response during the next session, during next week's edition of the Iron Port. We're grateful to you for your question, though, Freeman from Bolga. I think this one, Hima sends this one in again. She says, shipping is capital intensive, yes, but this should not be a big deal, especially where there is the opportunity to own a vessel by chartering, that is bareboat chartering. Why can't some of the so-called aid be in the form of vessel, or even do a gold for vessel program like we're doing for gold for oil? She says a special good evening to Mr. Ajimai. So
thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
Ohima just sent that in. Yes.
Good for vessel. I don't know how that could be. But
yes.
As to bareboat, I think it's possible. Bareboat is just you charter the vessel empty.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
So you determine the commercial direction of the vessel.
Absolutely.
In your interest. So it's possible. If we are not even buying us, if we can charter on a long lease and run. As some of these shipping companies we have around, they all run on bareboat charter.
All right.
So it's possible.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. So you can also call us and then contribute to the discussion. The number is right there on your screen: 0205528353. Now let me come to Mr. Ejiman and find out from you, Mr. Asari made mention of the fact that yes, the WTO agreement, it's explicit that you can compete.
Yes.
And so necessarily bringing in a Ghanaian carrier, shipping carrier, does not mean that we're going to hound the foreign vessels out of our jurisdiction. I just want to find out from you. I know that a lot of importers and freight forwarders have been grappling with issues, especially when it has to do with the shipping lines that we have currently in our domain, in our country. And if we have a national carrier, I'm sure that maybe some of these issues may be ameliorated. But I understand we have a caller. Let's pick it. Raymond from Bolgas. Yes, please.
Yes, my question is just a layman question.
Yes.
I want to know why for our neighbors over here, they said they are having free port. So buying things there is like only cheaper, motorbikes that will buy there is cheaper. Why is it that Ghana too, we can also do the same thing? Go Ghana to buy some common thing that the import duty alone will scare you. So that's my concern.
Okay, Freeport. He's talking about Togo?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I said Togo. They said Togo, they are having Freeport. So it's like buying things like motorbikes like this. We are just closer to the border. You see that when you are to buy motorbike, it's like we only go to Togo to buy, but that place is cheaper. But Ghana here, can't we also do the same thing for our people?
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sure my guests are well versed with this particular issue of Freeport in Togo and all that. But my understanding is that even when they do that, they still pay the duty. Is that right?
Their taxes
you have any knowledge
are low.
about it?
Yes. They when I say free, it's not necessarily free for everything.
Okay.
Just that their charges are lower. That's the whole thing.
Okay.
And if Ghana can do it, yes or no, it's a policy maker decision. We can only advocate for it. And in advocating for it, we need to look at the pros and cons. To some extent, I think we can.
Okay.
But we need to be very careful when we are doing that.
Right.
We have some proposals. I don't think it is appropriate on this forum.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. But it's possible, but we need to think deep into it. It's possible. Yes.
And you'd go for that kind of arrangement that is happening in Togo, the Freeport kind of.
For instance, vehicle importers. When you import vehicle into Togo, they have what you call the garage system, where the garage is registered and insured. So unlike Ghana, where you pay your taxes upfront before you clear your vehicle from the port.
Sure.
In Togo, the vehicles are moved to the garages. So when a buyer or a possible buyer comes to buy, that is where the government taxes on it is paid. And then the garage owner transfers that of government to government. He takes the vehicle owner or the person who has bought the car, takes it away. So for the businessman, it frees your capital.
Right.
You don't pay money up front. And nobody has bought it for 6 months, 3 months.
You only think of paying taxes when you go to the garage to purchase your car.
And in one of the canons of taxation, taxes must be paid at the point of consumption.
Absolutely.
So when the vehicle, quote unquote, is not totally consumed,
and you pay taxes on it.
But otherwise it's different.
Absolutely.
There are other ways, but I don't want to digress into it.
Okay.
We can look at it in a different program.
All right, awesome.
But your question about...
Yes, I'll come back to the shipping line, but let's go into the phone lines and then welcome Kwesi, who is calling us from OEB. Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Yes. Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
My. This discussion is so laudable and very, very positive. But I'm afraid. Yeah, good evening. The fact is, Ghana was once revamped and it failed. So it all boils down to political issue of this, my dear country. And secondly, corruption, nepotism. So the basis of this discussion can thrive if there is no corruption, if there is no interference from political grandiers, and if there is integrity, transparency, then I think we can go far, because all things show positive on one side when we undertake this Ghana this Ghana Black Star resumption. I think it's quite good, but I'm afraid the basis, we don't have the basis.
Yeah.
We cannot hold on to this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kwesi. We're deeply grateful to you. Who called us all the way from OEB. He says, given the experience of the Ghana Airways, during President Kufuor's time, Ghana International Airlines came to being, and that sort of like was resuscitation or revival of the Ghana Airways, and it also was short-lived again. And so he's saying that, premised on this particular experience, he doesn't think that it is actually...
Virtually enumerated the similar problems we have spoken about.
Absolutely.
If we are going to have political interference, if we are going to have nepotism,
yes,
if we are going to have corruption,
yeah,
if we are going to have lack of patriotism, if we are going to have lack of leadership, we should close this chapter.
Absolutely.
That's a fact. These are issues you must cut off so that the Black Star Lines can work.
Right.
That is it. And I think I agree with him. If we don't cut off these things, it will be another waste of investment.
Oh, absolutely. You agree, Mr. Asari?
Yes. You see, the marine space, one of the areas where reform scheme with paperless, now we are migrating to digitalization.
Yes.
If these things are religiously executed, it will take away the human intervention and then the corruption things. Yes, we just have to be conscious of what we are doing and then avoid the rhetorics.
Awesome.
And then we will succeed. If you go elsewhere, where you see a Ghanaian and his expertise being exhibited, you'll be amazed.
Right.
Why is it that they get themselves corrupt when they are around here in the system? Sometimes we blame the politicians. Every ordinary Ghanaian has a role to play in stemming out corruption and all these nuances.
Right.
We must take it as a project, as a national agenda, that we're going to stamp out these hurdles from our psyche.
All right.
And then we will succeed.
Okay. Onto the phone lines we go again, and this time we are speaking to Yao, all the way in Dansuman. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Yes.
My name is Yao from Dansuman.
Yes, please go ahead.
I overheard the gentleman talking about values of invoices. And, we keep talking about values without looking at the level of corruption when it comes to customs operation.
Yes.
Values, when a value is given on an invoice, and the customer work on it, and they say, okay, you're supposed to pay, your value is less, so you have to pay 2 times on that value. Remember, there is a law of petition. The customer will see that there is a law of petition. If they are not convinced with that value, petition it with appropriate documents. That proves that your value that you brought was correct. And then they will petition it based on the law. Then the same customer officers that rejected the document will still accept the value for them to go and clear. This is what we're talking about, corruption. So if these things are not given attention, you can spend a whole year talking about these things. It will still not work. Because people, we are there and we understand what is ongoing over there. Because if you apply for, if you bring an envelope and the customer is able to tell you that, okay, the value you brought is wrong, irrespective of what evidence you provide, they should be able to prove you wrong because they know from the main source that the value is wrong. Then they will ask you to go and petition again and bring evidence to prove that your value is not wrong. Knowing that the value is wrong, somebody will sit behind and still accept the value for you to go and clear the problem. So it means that if the value is 1 CD and you are paying 0.5 CD, you can just imagine whether the government is gaining or losing. This is about under-invoicing. This is what the gentleman was talking about. Under-invoicing. And it is going on for a very long time.
Yeah.
And we have got some people who are responsible, who are supposed to have checked all these things. But I can assure you that authorities have to be very careful about some of these things. Other than that, if you could remember, when the government brought this issue about 50% discount on barrels, can you imagine what benefit did the country gain out of that? Nothing. And these barrels, money that were given to importers from various sources, did not affect the workers of the country. They take the money and they send the money back to their countries again, and the government keeps giving them discount. How can I bring goods of $40,000 and you tell me that I should pay $20,000? What are we doing in this country? Are we gaining or we are losing? Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, Yao, from Dansuman. I think, once again, this one falls within the purview of the Customs Division, Ghana Revenue Authority. Unfortunately, we don't have any personnel from Customs to respond to that. And as usual, I would assure you that we would forward it, your concern to the authorities, and then get your response next week when we come for the show. But let me come to you. This issue of, of shipping lines and, vis-a-vis if we have a national, shipping line, whether it will help ameliorate some of the situations or problems that importers and, forwarders have in terms of, grappling with, some yeah, issues. Absolutely.
Well, one of our hopes that is that if the Black Star Line should come on stream, it should be able to resolve some of these unfair practices these shipping lines met out to Ghanaians or Ghanaian businesses or importers. So all over the world, liner business or liner trade goes through the bill of lading, and then the bill of lading contract will specify your freight you're supposed to pay. And freight ideally is port to port. So when I pay my freight for transporting my cargo from, let's say, New York to Tema, it covers all the expenses involved from New York to Tema till the cargo gets to a terminal where I have access to the cargo as cargo owner and take delivery of my goods. So ideally, I'm just supposed to present the bill of lading to the shipping line. They release my cargo or they release my cargo to me. In our part of the world, it is not that way.
All right.
So the shipping companies here in Ghana will charge you what they call local administrative charges. And that is one of the things we believe, we hope that if the Black Star Line should come on stream, they should be able to, have a business model to take away that charge. If they're able to take away that charge, I strongly believe that a lot of shippers will sway, because that's a marketing strategy. Because these charges are inappropriate, illegal, and wrong. It is not there anywhere. Why should Hapag-Lloyd, why should Maxline charge me local administrative fee? But when I ship from Ghana through the same shipping line to Denmark, to China, to Germany, to any part of the world, over there, they do not charge them local charges because the freight charge here includes everything. So it's because probably over here our laws are probably not working because you have institutions that are crash the whip, they are not doing it. So if the Black Star Line comes in, we believe these are areas they should be able to, take advantage of so that, it can help create the market that we need. Because the shipping lines, I think they are ripping Ghanaians off. You do not work on Saturdays, you do not work on Sundays, you don't work on holidays, yet you charge business people, importers, for those days you do not work. It's not appropriate, it's not right. Because even the Interpretations Act will tell you that days you do not work, you do not charge for it. But these agencies, they charge for it. Another issue about free days. When do you determine when your free days begins? Free days are either 5, 7, 14, 21 days. In some exceptional cases, 21 days given to you by the carrier to take delivery of your cargo and return their box or their container to them. When did those days start counting? For some shipping lines, the moment your vessel arrives or the vessel arrives, it start counting. For some shipping lines, when the box is taken from the vessel, it start counting. It is not right. It should be that when the vessel leaves the shores of Ghana, that is where effectively the cargo owner have access to the cargo. So that's where you should start counting. And these are, I think these are, technical areas I wouldn't want to speak too much. When we meet and we need to set up Black Star Lines and we need to find areas where we can efficiently and effectively compete and gain access to cargo and operate as a shipping line, we will take advantage of that. But to a large extent, these shipping lines are ripping Ghanaians off. Multiply 1 million containers as at 2021 by an average shipping line charge of 5,500 Ghana cedis per 20-footer container. These are the monies they are extracting from Ghanaian shipping community. If they take these monies out of our country, how do you stabilize your dollar? It's a big issue that the government must speak to it.
Awesome. All right. This one says, I'm Ebenezer in Takoradi. I think reviving the Black Star Line is possible, but the problem is our politicians are not interested in investing. Let me come to you, Mr. Asari, and find out from you whether it's been brought to your notice as CILT are some of the challenges that importers and freight forwarders face with respect to these shipping lines.
Yes. Not vigorously, but they have mentioned it. And what needed to be done is to sit down and then really analyze the issues. Taking it on the face value might not be useful.
Right.
You need to get the full details and to see how to proceed and advise professionally.
Right.
Like I've said, it is a highly competitive environment. This shipping business and then the freight forwarders and others coming in. You see, I know Ghana Shippers Authority, which is the mouthpiece of the shipping community.
Yes.
They've been trying to fight these unfair practices for a very long time now.
Right.
And it is the intervention of areas like the Black Star Line that can solve it.
Right.
Because that one, they will have a choice to shift to a more favorable shipping line. The absence of that is what is making the other lines catching in.
Absolutely.
Individuals fighting these giants, mafia giants in the industry, is quite frustrating. So they are giving and throwing the towel. But a national line can easily become a buffer and then put a solution to some of these things. Because in the WTO agreement itself, it specifies it, fair trade rules and agreements and all of that, helping developing countries to design their policies to benefit from the agreement. The question is, are we benefiting from the agreement at all? It is tilted in their favor.
Right.
Because they dominate the operations in that area.
Yes.
So to counter it is for us also to get into the competition and handle it efficiently, and then we profit out of it.
Right. Okay, so Mr. Ajman, in the event that there is a new Black Star Line today, are there any commercial routes that you would prefer that they begin with?
Commercial route, yes. I will ideally look at what is happening because you can have a commercial route today, tomorrow it's not efficient.
Right.
So I wouldn't mention specific, commercial route, but we need to look at the market. If you go back to the document again, the Maritime Review 2021 by the Ghana Shippers Authority is very extensive. It tells you what are the trade areas or routes of Ghana. As of 2021, even today, maybe today there might be changes.
Right.
So I will advise that we'll look at the market where it is viable for us, then we go in. But at least for the start, like my senior said, we can take advantage of our coast trade because along our coast we really do not have a line that operates that efficiently.
Right.
So why don't we probably take advantage of transshipment cargoes that comes into our ports? We have MPS terminal. We receive reasonably bigger vessels than before. And our transshipment, cargo has also gone up. So it's possible we can even start with a transshipment cargo. We can have a straightforward policy.
Right.
You see, the WTO has an agreement, this is UNTAGOS. They have an agreement of 40-40-20 where, cargoes are shared on that policy. 40 for the originating country, 40 for the destination country, 20 for other vessels. We can try to apply that.
Right.
But even that, today, the giant shipping lines are flouting it because we do not have our own lines.
Right.
So we can be straightforward and decide to apply flag discrimination.
it is discriminatory, but it is economic policy to revive your country.
Right.
And other countries applied it and they are benefiting from it. So we can decide to be specific that transit or transshipment trade, it's for Ghanaian vessels or it's for the Black Star Lines. So when they bring all the transshipment cargo guests here, you leave it for us.
That's all.
At least to Cote d'Ivoire, to Nigeria, to Togo, to those other areas. We can start from there. We can do something positive.
All right. Great. That's Mr. Jacob Ajiman, who is the convener of the Transport Forum. It's a think tank in the shipping and transport industry. Also, to my right has been Mr. Ephraim Asari, who is the Vice President in charge of Maritime at the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, CILT Ghana. They are the two gentlemen we've been doing the discussion with tonight on Iron Port, and we just asked a simple question, whether it was feasible for us to have a new national shipping line, perhaps in the form of the Black Star Line. And I said this particular topic came about as a result of the clamor by the Transport Forum, and even snippets of information picked from McDonald that he intends to get a national shipping line. And so that's how we draw the curtain on Iron Port today here on Metropolitan Television. Remember, the show is proudly brought to you by the Ghana Revenue Authority, Goil PLC, Serene Insurance, Ghana Link Network Services, and Meridian Port Services, MP. And indeed, it is powered by the Ghana Ports and Harbors Authority, GPHA. God willing, next week we shall bounce back with another wonderful edition of Iron Port. We entreat you to watch the abridged version on Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. My name is Kennedy Mona. We thank you so much, and we entreat you to keep watching the rest of the programs. And God willing, until next week, we say have a super week ahead.